Hello, everybody. This is Apple Treats, and today we have a kind of special episode because we have a new co-host for this episode. We don't know how often this will be happening, but Vladimir, hello. You're my co-host for this 17. By the way, it's we already like 17th episode. That's quite a ride, I would say.
Hello. Thank you. I'm happy to be here again, actually. Yeah. In some countries,
not
from
the first
17
time.
years, you can buy beer or drive car. So yeah, we are mostly ready.
We actually, I saw the study that like most of the podcasts cannot survive 10 episodes. So we are already like targeting 20. So probably on a good shape for now. But yeah, and Vladimir is, many of you might know that Vladimir is part of the Apple Treats team, and today he will be discussing developer experience in the iOS 15 era, I would say. So we decided to take a look how and what developers are now doing, what are the pain points, and we will be also trying to take questions. So if you're listening us live, put your comments to the chat. Basically, like any idea, any opinions on how to be a developer, what it takes, what are your pain points, what do you want to see, what do you miss? I don't know. Or maybe like we will see somebody who misses the Objective-C for whatever reason. I don't know. Might be. But I suppose we need to start with we will like almost
Apple.com landing page today, I think.
Yeah. So it's 10 years since Steve Jobs passed away, and like I don't know, almost any Apple-related resource now remembers Steve. By the way, Apple.com, yeah, it has nice video on the homepage and letter from the Jobs family, which is really touching. And I don't, well, like from my personal experience, I never met Steve Jobs. I never talked to him, but I see a lot of comments from people who knew him, who worked with him or had a chance to talk with him on many topics, and all of them are, I don't know, like they all embrace his vision, everything. And from my perspective, I would say that it definitely like affected me. I mean, I think that because of Steve Jobs, I went into mobile development. I don't think if not iOS, I would be doing development for Android. Probably not. I mean, that's for sure. And by the way, what about you? Maybe you had a chance to talk with Steve Jobs previously?
No, unfortunately, yeah, that I haven't had a chance, but I had a story, not a story, but comparison of two CEO of Apple, like current one, Tim Cook and Steve Jobs. When me and my wife had a honeymoon in California, we visited Apple's campus on Infinite Loop, and a guy who gave us this overview of their campus, he told that for Steve, it was okay to go with all employees of Apple to their McCafe, their internal restaurant, sit somewhere with them, talk about something. And Tim is not that kind of person. He prefers to chilling with, I think, with the top executives. So, and I think like that was two different sides of Steve. So he was person who can speak with everyone, and other side he was very demanding and pushing people forward and pushing everything forward, I think. And I'm not sure about himself as the only factor that brought me to iOS development, but iOS as itself, as we know it right now, I think because of him, it's so comfortable development environment. And because of this, probably we are really happy to be iOS developers. Not only iOS, some of us macOS developers can be, but yeah.
True. Again, I wouldn't be talking about like if Tim Cook is better or worse CEO. I'm not the person to judge CEOs and specifically CEOs of companies like Apple, but I mean, I don't know, they're different, and it doesn't mean that Tim Cook is worse. I mean, I probably the difference is okay, and well, the success of Apple and their current releases also show that maybe like it's okay to have different styles of running a big company. And by the way, I already see some comments on our YouTube stream, and some people still like Objective-C. Yeah, well, those of us who started as Objective-C developers, I mean, like we never knew that Swift was in development, and I believe I started even before it was like started in development. So I'm not sure, like it was started in 2011 or something like that, but I started in 2010, so like probably a year before Swift was in development. And I was mocked a lot about like this syntax of Objective-C, but yeah, now I would had to admit that probably I wouldn't want to write any new code in Objective-C. I'm okay with reading the code and probably redoing similar things in Swift, but I'm pretty much think that Objective-C is, yeah, it's something from the past already.
Actually, it is from past. So as I remember, the first version of Objective-C was released back in 1980, something like this. So for next step operation system and so on. So yeah, it's outdated. It's really cool, probably because we started with it, we like it, but yeah, it's not a modern language, unfortunately.
Yeah, I propose we move on to something modern, and yeah, so like big news, iOS 15 was released, and we already like talked about that briefly on the previous episode, and not just the iOS itself, but also Xcode 13 is released, iOS 15 SDK is released, and we more or less started playing with that. And there are a couple of things already happening. I mean, we already discussed that in some chats, but one of the like I didn't saw that before. I mean, I was not playing too much with beta versions, and I saw that now there is a style which makes bars like navigation bar or tab bar transparent when you put the content nearby it, and it also like does this behavior on the Swift UI. And for my case, it was like I was using a map in model presentation, and the map was not native, but rather map as a UI view representable. And technically it was okay, but the like navigation bar went transparent, and I was like, wow, that's weird. I found the topic on the developer forums, and yes, that's the new normal, and you have to adjust something if you see the same behavior. That was like my first encounter with the iOS 15 SDK, and I see, yeah, well, there are some things we need to adjust now. And
is that fully transparent?
Yeah, it just, if the content is under the bar, so the background of the bar is transparent. All the buttons, all the content on the bar is not transparent. So if you put some toggles or like, I don't know, segmented controls, they're normal, but the background is not blurred, but fully transparent. And there is a style on the appearance API which makes like it back, but there are some drawbacks on that as well. And for those who are like seeing this, probably you can Google that and you will find that particular thread on developer forums with the recommendation how to fix that and what the implications would be. So this is basically makes the behavior of large navigation bar with large titles when it like basically merges with the content of the page when there is no background, and when you start scrolling, background appears. But this behavior now makes it transparent even if you're not scrolling, and there are a lot of stuff happening there. So beware if you're compiling in C transparent background. This is not a bug, it's the intention behavior, and you will need to fix that by some configuration.
But that works fine if you compile it with the iOS 14 SDK and run it on iOS
yeah,
15. Right?
Yeah, there was no such a thing as a fully transparent in the iOS 15 SDK. So it's basically like, yeah, the behavior is different. And speaking of that, when they changed something like in behavior, why they didn't still change the default value for translates auto layout mask into constraints? I mean, so probably it's already time to make it. Yeah, so we might put that as the as a false by default. I mean, like probably it's already like maybe a couple of years. Hopefully they might do that in I don't know, next year, or they will just drop this property with UIKit like 10 years into the future. But yeah, so
probably
this
they
is
have
something.
some statistic on this. So probably they see that a lot of people using false by default.
Yeah, definitely there is a reason for that, and probably like the reason is like obvious for them, but not for us. But still, I would prefer this to be like not to write that particular line in almost every custom UI view you create. Okay. Since we will have not too long episode for today, by the way, again, if you're listening us, watching us, bring your comments. What you did, what did you find in the new SDKs, or did you try Xcode 13 and like something like what's your impressions? Is it good? Is it bad? Like, and by the way, iOS 14.8 is no longer down. You cannot longer downgrade to iOS 14.8. So
it's not signed.
If you upgraded your device, yeah, you're staying on iOS 15 now, and beware of that. So
by the way, do you like Xcode 13 appearance? It's really fresh and interesting and modern.
Yeah, well, the icons for the files is something which you need to adjust to. I mean, like, I got used to previous style, and now it's like a little bit different, but I'm okay with that, and I'm trying to not to put too much focus on the tool. It works, and yeah, I mean, I don't see don't see much of the problems, and it works more or less okay. It like crashed once for me, and that's probably a good sign. Yeah. Maybe I'm using it not too much, but well, okay. And yeah, SourceKit highlights more or less working. I mean, again, a couple of times I saw like improper highlights of the symbols, but that's it didn't show me this not fully non-highlighted text with the like SourceKit crashed and needs to be restarted message. But the one thing
Yeah, by the way, digression. So have you tried using some other tools for, not iOS development, but Swift development rather than Xcode itself?
Yes and no. Yes, in terms of I tried. No, in terms of I didn't try it well. I tried VS Code, and we had an episode on server-side Swift, and so I like give it a try somewhat. I used Visual Studio many years ago. I mean, like somebody who know me knows that some time into the past I used to write .NET code, C#, apart from other languages. But so I used Visual Studio, and the Visual Studio code is like, it's different, by the way, like from 10 years of Visual Studio before. So like my experience with Visual Studio ends 10 years ago. And the Visual Studio code works fine. Again, it runs fast enough, being Electron app, I suppose. But well, anyway, it's the browser, by the way, with the web app installed within. But it works okay. You can do a lot of code there, but I'm still not fully used to it. There are some key combinations you need to remember. Probably I need to install a lot of plugins to make the work more comfortable, but I just installed the studio, I opened the project, I did some changes, did some comments in shell, and it more or less worked. Do you use something else besides the iCode, maybe AppCode or any other IDE?
Actually, yes, I'm using AppCode sometimes for some complex refactoring, or when I need to debug some very strange behavior between various protocols, classes, and so on. And actually, now AppCode works much better with all of this. Yeah, finally, since 2014, they managed to fix this. I'm happy with that. And also, I tried using that's like Swift. Sorry, I missed that. How it's called? Like a plugin source server, like with Sublime. So it's impossible to develop code for UI key, like for iOS, because it cannot parse for some reason. I don't know why it cannot parse module files for standard frameworks. But if you're doing pure Swift development with the Swift package manager, it works fine. And sometimes it works much better in some places.
I see we have a comments on YouTube saying that they like new look of the Xcode. I would tend to agree. And let's get to the programming. The one thing scared me a lot, and scared for a good reason. So if you're looking, if you browse through Swift forums, you will find the thread regarding the Swift concurrency stack corruption bug. And the examples on that thread are not too complicated, and they result in program termination, stack corruption, and obviously stack corruption is a bug which could lead to exploits. Like, this is something you should never like have in your apps. And structured concurrency was introduced as something which is safe, which will prevent you from these kind of bugs. Not these, but rather like from concurrency issues. And you will like write nice code, and it will like everything will be fine. And there's some simple examples simply crash the app or like does some nasty things with stack. That's bad. I really hope this will be fixed like really soon, and it might be the bugs are on the Swift bug tracker already, and it seems that team is working on that. But that basically adds another argument against this structured concurrency. First, like you basically cannot backport that to previous iOS releases, and the second one, it's even on the current release there are some issues which you need to know. You need to put your code in a way which will never trigger these kind of behaviors, and that's something you definitely need to be aware of.
I really by the way, like Swift concurrency itself because of it's not transparent, and in comparison to other languages that implement an async await syntax, yeah, they're doing this in a more transparent way. Async await is just a part of syntax; it's a construction. But you manage multi-threading itself with other tools. Here they try to combine all of these, and that's what it looks cool. But in some edge cases, you may need to use some other tools.
And interestingly, it's not like syntactic sugar over like dispatch queue async or something. It's really different, and the WWDC sessions were covering that. So it's like lightweight context switching tools and everything. But still, I mean, yeah, you're probably right that it's not too transparent. And knowing that you are one of those who likes Rust, maybe you can give some idea on how it's like how it's compared to Rust. I mean, Rust has, let's put it that way, the syntax of Rust may be even more complicated than the Objective-C was in some way. But the language itself is really nice. So did they do great in terms of managing the concurrency?
Yeah, first of all, I think we need to go back before, I don't remember exact version when async await syntax was released in Rust, but before this, even there, you had opportunity to work only with lightweight threads, and even then, it was pretty safe because of various constraints that they put around various types with that can be moved to another thread, that can be managed between various threads, and so on. And remembering that Rust has its own very interesting memory model, where you the only one you can have the only one owner of some object, and you can have multiple borrowers of that object in reading, and only one borrower like in a mutable mode. So this makes working with this model in a multi-thread environment more complex. They also have something called ARC. Actually, it's similar, but it's not automatic reference counting, but it's asynchronous reference counting, where you can use like really counting references to your object, and when you drop the last deref, as they called, you derive the last reference to that object is cleared from your memory. But still, that works fine. And they really gradually introduced async await syntax to language itself first. So, and this is just a syntax. It's only syntax, which during compilation, it translates to like as I read. It's more complex as it was described in multiple articles. It's some kind of state machine. And the idea is that when you don't need to, so if you cannot continue working with your data right now, you need to say, okay, wait for another, while some other process finishes work. Okay, while you waited, okay, we check in, done, okay, we go next. And they use state machines for this. But as I said, you cannot run this code without some additional tooling, without some additional libraries which manages runtime of these async await threads. And they have various implementation for this. They have Tokyo, they have some other stuff that hides the complexity of this runtime. But still, if you need, you can manage this manually. You can decide, okay, I want to have only 4 threads for all my concurrency in an application, or some other stuff. You can run it all in one thread, actually, or you can, okay, it's really customizable. And that's why it's really cool. Even though when usually I use it with the standard settings, still I'm happy that I can do this. And other stuff, what's different between Swift, async await, and Rust? It was about 7 releases of Rust where they introduced this feature gradually. So nightly releases and so on, and community put a lot of efforts into testing this stuff. And now it works. Now everyone is happy. For Swift, they announced this back, I believe, in last spring. And how many people really downloading non-stable tool chains of Swift and playing with it?
Not much.
Yeah. So they're lack of testers in that case.
Yeah, I would agree definitely. And like for those who are wondering why we're talking about Rust now, maybe because the Swift, it's a long cousin from Rust, and some features you see in Swift are actually they have some Rust counterparts, let's put it that way, and some design decisions also look a lot like design decisions in Rust. Not all, but some of them, and even the protocols and those stuff happening with protocols. This is something which Swift looks into Rust direction. So I see a lot that, and like the, I don't know, like it's a different topic, but there are some proposals in Swift to make work with the existential types easier. I mean, like some of you might see that this protocol can only be used as constraint because it has associated type or self-reference. So this is one of the issues with the existential types, and like the protocol in Swift is can be used in two positions: as a placeholder for the type, or as the, again, as a constraint for something. And like some of the protocols cannot be used as a storage types. So yeah, that's one of the things happening there. But again, that's hopefully the async await in Swift will also mature from release to release. And when this will be happening, I really hope that those will not be bound to the specific new iOS version. I mean, this is something which needs at least iOS 15. So if you are saying that the iOS 15 is the minimum requirement, okay, but like if you need to fix something, make this fix working on the previous iOS releases too, because that's really important now if we are to adopt this in the applications. And personally, I do like to adopt it. It makes code much simpler, much shorter, and sometimes it's definitely easier to understand. And I really want to start adopting actors. And as of now, again, it's the problems here with the current release. And one thing I would like to see is actors for the managed object contexts, for example. So, or like managed objects themselves to be actors. That will probably make a lot of work easier. I mean, I'm recently I found one issue with core data, my own issue. I did that myself. That was I put that bug into the application, but it was it was like couple of chaining of the methods, and some of them were inside the context.perform, some of them outside, and finally I found a way where one manipulation like slipped through that and was out of context thread, and that was like, again, the crash was happening not often. Okay.
Yeah, I personally stopped using SQLite for not very big databases, which I need to store in my applications, because it's easier. You control everything, and you don't have all that issues happening with core data. And how many of us really needs core data in our applications?
At least not everybody. And yeah. And by the way, those of you who are like screaming into like whatever, wherever you are, Realm, use that. Like, no, it's not the silver bullet. It also has its own problems. I don't think we will be going through that today. Maybe we will have a special episode on comparison between core data and Realm, and maybe we will have somebody from the Real team. I don't know, Realm team. We'll try. But yes, it's something you need to make your decision if you are to use core data, and if you are like going to store something like 10 or 100 records, maybe that's not the good thing to do. I mean, you can do like even serializing and like saving to the disk. That will be probably more performant and easier, and you will have less issues with the concurrency. Yeah. Let me check the comments for a sec. So there is a mention that the Swift is now more focused on the iOS rather than general purpose, and I would disagree on this actually. So the comment is that the Swift is now more focused on the iOS development language rather than the general purpose. No, well, like just today I saw the tweet from from the Vapor team, who said that they will be adopting async await, and so server-side Swift is still there, and they are doing a lot of progress there. So, and I don't think it's these features are targeted for the iOS. I would say that iOS is not fully adopting these features, and there are not too many frameworks using new Swift features. We still see some of the frameworks using Objective-C style protocols, and they did some upgrades with completion handlers, which are now translated into async methods. But still, And I think this Swift still is general purpose language. The problem is that for us, we are using it with Xcode, and Xcode compiles for the iOS, and you need like to do some tricks in order to make it work with the with other platforms. But I would disagree on this. I mean, I think that Swift is okay in terms of general purpose languages. Do you think so, Vladimir?
I would say that you can use it for other kind of development. And now every time when I need to write some utility for myself on my Mac, I always switch in between Rust and Swift, because now Swift with the package manager, with various stuff that's happening around Swift, it's really powerful language, and you can use it for even for this kind of like a. Before I used to use Ruby for this. Now I use Rust and Swift, and it's a good move because Swift is fast. And what good that Apple is implementing a lot of interesting stuff open source in Swift, such as, I don't know, my favorite one is argument parser package for command line utilities. It's really powerful. You can do a lot of interesting stuff there. Or
and quite easy,
Swift,
by the way, yeah.
Yeah, and Swift Package Manager itself, it's really interesting source of inspiration where you can find interesting moves, probably overcomplicated for my cases, but still I can find something interesting there and start developing in the same way.
True.
So, yeah.
Okay, we have one more topic to cover before we wrap up, and this topic is actually Swift UI. So I've put a lot of hopes into new release, and it's good more or less. I found a couple of issues which are troubling me, and this is not the bug in terms of like it's like doesn't work as expected. It's probably working as expected, but I was expecting different things from that. But I think you have something to share on this.
I don't have shared actually a lot of things about Swift UI in so-called Swift UI 3.0. But all my experience with the Swift UI proved that you can do probably 85% of development in Swift UI, and then you spend 20% more on trying to implement something more custom that Apple developers allows us to do. Simple examples: leading or trailing swipe actions. You cannot implement this in Swift UI easily. You can do this with dirty hacks. I've done this. It works bad, but it works. Or another stuff that drives me crazy. So in UI table view or UI collection view, you can implement such behavior when you press and hold, and then enable edit mode, just moving your cells without any additional actions. Can you do this in Swift UI? Yeah, you can implement special edit button in your navigation bar, which enables this behavior. Okay, that works, but it's really crazy. And for me, I started, I don't know, 2 or 3 apps writing in Swift UI. I reached some point where I decided, okay, I cannot do this anymore because I can implement MVP. It works, but I need more. I need more interesting stuff to implement for myself. I develop these applications not for someone. I'm not releasing them. I'm doing this for myself. But I want these features. Come on. My best example is that in tvOS 14, if you're trying to implement not so big, but pretty big collection, how it's called, like, not collection view, how it's called in Swift UI. Do you remember?
Grid, I suppose.
Yeah, grid. So when you try to implement grid with, not only with the images, but just grid with some text, I know, probably 1,000 items in it, or less. Performance of that grid is awkward. So when you try to swipe it, it's especially in tvOS.
Did
Come
you
on,
try the
guys.
lazy grid, which is part of the
Try.
second SwiftUI?
Yes.
Well,
So
it
lazy
helped me
grid.
sometimes. But yeah.
Yeah, something
Okay.
wrong, especially with tvOS 14. I don't know why. I will check that example in
Probably the
tvOS
layout
13.
engine, something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Weird. Yeah, I have one thing which like drove me crazy with the with SwiftUI 3, and I have to share that. So one feature was announced for the SwiftUI 3, and that was ability to change the focus. And that was like, wow, finally I can set the first responder when I need to, and I will be able to like basically put show the form and put the first responder field like when it appears. Probably that's the good thing to use that, and specifically on the iOS. Yes, you can change the focused value, and there are some examples. It's like kind of easy to implement, except for one thing: when the view appears, you cannot change the focused field. So you cannot show the view with the, for example, keyboard showing and the first text field is focused already. What you can do, you can add a task, or like you can add on appear and dispatch like async after delay. You can add like 300 milliseconds or something like that, and then change the focus. I mean, really?
Apple, come on.
And it probably there is some logic behind that. So when view is not appeared, there is something which prevents you from managing the focus. But I need this thing specifically in this case, and so basically changing the focus after the animation complete, it's a workaround, but it's ugly. I mean, you show the view and then a keyboard appears and the text field gets focused. That's bad, and that's again those like 300 milliseconds of wasted time for the user if he expects to start typing immediately. And that some people like to start typing immediately, and that's sad. I mean, that's I'm by the way, yeah, I didn't file enhancement request yet, but I will do that. I mean, like I need to put those into the words. Probably it will be rejected or like something like that, or I will get thank you for that, and well, it will never be viewed again by anybody. But really, this is why I'm like this particular feature is nice, and it's, by the way, the idea here is kind of like easy. You can change, you can create an enum with the fields, and you can basically assign the values, and everything will be working fine. But this small thing, which and you cannot do anything either by like again re-implement the text field in the UI view representable, and that's something there for it to become first responder as soon as possible. You can do that, by the way, but that's if you want to avoid these kind of hacks. Yeah. So my verdict so far, SwiftUI 3 is much closer to the production. So you basically you really can do a lot with that, but some things are still missing, and some of those to re-implement what you need with those small things might take a lot of time, and you might probably ruin a lot of things. But in defense, I would say that even when I'm using the UI kit, I'm now trying to follow the declarativeness. Sorry, probably the wrong word, but I'm trying to make view as stupid as possible, and just reacting to something outside, and making it easier to migrate to SwiftUI when SwiftUI becomes more powerful and support this particular kind of view. So this is
the good.
Yeah.
The good thing that they introduced with the SwiftUI, the idea they injected into our minds, this idea of source of truth. So you have only one place where you calculate, or not calculating, but storing the value. And all other values, they are derived from it. And it's so cool idea. I really love it. And start implementing it everywhere in iOS code with the UI kit.
Yeah, true. And this is something which I'm trying to follow a lot now. And this is something, again, which, like, even if you're doing the UI kit code focus on that. Make your views dependent on the data, and like not be the source of the data for something. Okay, that's this is some kind of therapy session for the developers, at least for us too. we shared our like pain points, and by the way, again, if you are still with us, like share it in the chat, or if you're watching us later, like put that into comments. We will be responding to that. That's for sure. One thing I'm still waiting, and hopefully to see released soon, and I'm currently like trying some things with that. It's the SharePlay API, specifically the group activities. This is something I would like to see more, and like I would like to see how others will use that. We have some ideas, and if you like, I will be doing the talk on one of the conference soon regarding how you can use the SharePlay together with other communication platforms and on the iOS, and what can you do with that. So this particular framework really is really interesting, and it's really simple. I mean, like it's done perfectly from the API standpoint. It's simple to understand, simple to follow, mostly simple to implement, and the only probably the most sophisticated thing would be the integration with the Apple TV, but that's still okay. I mean, that's still doable. And
have they released it yet?
Nope. So I kind of expect that to be released with the macOS Monterey. Well, it's on the iOS 15.1 beta, so it's re-enabled in that beta version. And I think the iOS 15.1 and macOS Monterey will be released on the same day. I may be wrong, but
I hope.
I think so. Yeah, and again, I think that the macOS will get the SharePlay together with the other platforms. So it looks so, at least to me. And for those who don't know, so the SharePlay allows you to watch content together with everybody on the FaceTime call, or use the FaceTime call as the data channel between apps on the devices of the participants of the call. And as one more topic, so you can use that as a way of promoting your app. So if somebody doesn't have an app which is used by other parties on the FaceTime call, they will like be notified on that particular app. So that's a good thing to try if you have something, some apps which need sharing the data between participants. So take a look. And by the way, it uses Swift concurrency for. And moreover, they're using async sequencing, which we were talking about on one of our previous episodes. So it's really nice and like modern APIs.
Cool.
Okay, I think we did we did everything well. We discussed all the pain points, all the good stuff, and all the things we are waiting for. For all of us, or for all of you, for all of you who are listening to us online or at home or wherever, like please spend this, like since you're now here, like spend 1 minute to find us in Apple Podcasts. Leave a review and put your rating. Please, please, please. That will really help us. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you can like this video and share it to your friends.
And subscribe, of course.
Okay. True. Okay, thank you very much. That was an interesting day for developers to share their pains, but now we will try to find some more interesting topics for our next episode, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.